We had one of the biggest text banks considering for Katie Porter, which was great. We had 35 people show up. And I think I've gotten a lot more people now that will continue texting for Katie, which is great. And the week before that, we texted for Warnock, which was also excellent. And this Saturday, the 26th, is actually going to be our last text training with Resistance Labs. And so if anybody that you know wants to do texting, you can send them my way after Saturday, but I will probably refer them on either to Inga or Linda. Inga is specifically doing the Biden text training, which is, if you haven't texted before, it's really hard to jump through the hoops to text for that one. And I think Linda is still going to be doing regular texting through mid-October, and then she's going to stop doing any training. In October, what our group is going to do, we are going to have virtual text banks every Saturday from 10 to 12 with my Zoom. And we're just going to invite people to come in and text for whatever campaign they want to come in with. And our group of 5 will be there just to support, and it'll be camaraderie. Since we can't be in person anymore, that's it. But if you know people that want to text after this week, to me right now, it's a little too late to start getting involved. And what I've noticed is the last few days, I've had several people email me because postcarding is winding down. And now all of a sudden they want to get involved in texting. That's great, but it's political texting, as you all know, is a lot different than just doing hi mom, hi whoever. So anyway, that's where we stand right now. Any questions regarding texting?
No, I think not. So Jack, do you want to go into postcards?
Sure. Yeah, Linda, Stephanie's right that it's winding down in the sense that there are fewer campaigns available. I'm still pretty busy as people focus on what's left, really. And Reclaim Our Vote still has quite a bit of activity for the next, until the October 10th is when they want to have their last postcards get mailed. And they just actually rolled out a program, or are rolling out one to Florida today. So there's still quite a bit of that. And then, but otherwise what I have from Flip to West was my other main supplier. And that's really just Kansas and Alaska right now. Everything else is, well, in California, 25 and 39, I still have that. There's talk of maybe some last minute get out the vote things, but I don't really have any details about what that might be. So yeah, I mean, I'm still encouraging people if they want to, I can give them 100 addresses or 200 to last until, 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, I think that's probably sufficient. I know Gloria is still quite busy giving out packets. I know that. She's not on the call, it doesn't sound like. But because she writes me every few days and gets, 500 of this and 1,000 of that and 500 of this and whatever. So I know she's still doing a lot of work, sending, distributing packets.
Great. Linda, you want to say anything about Rise Up?
Just to piggyback on what Jack said, he's been a wonderful source for the names and addresses. We've done, he just gave me 1,000 more today. Those will be for Kansas, and that'll take us up to 15,000 in the last 2 months. And for our little group, they're very happy about that. I think that people are interested in trying to switch gears now. So I was interested, Stephanie, in what your comments were about maybe it's a little too late for people to get on the texting bandwagon. So I'm just going to pass on whatever information I get, tonight from folks and see, how further engaged people want to be. So my
Linda,
thanks to Jack. You've been very patient for answering all my questions and forwarding on all the names and addresses. And Gloria's been giving me the postcards. So this has been a great connection for my group, and I really appreciate it.
I'll say one thing about texting. If your people are interested, I can send you information. I think this week Reclaim Our Vote has a texting training going on. I think tomorrow it is. I'd have to look up the details. So if you want me to send you that along, you would basically people would have to sign up as a volunteer on their website and then just go then to click on the training to be included.
Okay.
And there's also a local, well, relatively local, there's a woman in Mendocino County who is kind of the rep for Reclaim Our Vote for this whole area. And she does texting training also. So
Okay.
I can send you that information.
That would be greatly appreciated.
Linda, let me say one other thing too regarding the texting. Even though we're going to stop doing training, you could still send people my way, because what I can do is I can give them resistance labs is the best place for people to really learn how to train. And I can send them the training deck. I can send them the link. They do training through their Slack. So I don't have to be involved, except that I can turn them on to resistance labs and move on.
Great.
So,
Thank you very much.
yeah, sure.
Can I say something about all that too? What we've noticed here in Napa, our text bankers are running out of workload. They did over the weekend because there are so many people willing to do text banking, and so many that actually workloads are very small for text banks. But phone bankers, we need phone bankers like crazy. There's so many phone banks, and for those people who are late to the party, you can learn phone banking in 5 minutes.
Yeah, we've done phone banking. Yeah.
So I found, well, on our website, we have at least one phone bank and 2 or 3 every day of the week. So there's plenty of phone banks to do. And if you can't get text banking, we need phone bankers.
Okay.
And the advantage to phone banking, I have to say, is that you make the call, you're done. With texting, you're texting someone, you're getting a reply, you may reply back, this and that. It's just whether people have the comfort to be able to speak to people on the phone.
Right.
It is the main thing. But yes, Lisa, you're right. Every campaign is asking for phone bankers.
I'll say, who does phone banking on this? Who talks about the phone banking? Because I want to say something about what
I don't think he's here, is he?
I don't
Larry?
think is it
Greg.
Right, yeah. So my experience with phone banking, and I've been doing it since Obama days when it was practically rotary dial and paper lists and manual input.
Yeah.
So it's, and I open up our Saturday phone bank with a Zoom meeting and get everybody up to speed and so on and so forth. It takes me about 15, 20 minutes to get even the newcomers dialing. You talk to, at most, 1 in 10 dials. And these phone banks, we're usually calling our own kind. We're calling to see, did you ask for your absentee ballot? Have you received it? Which way are you voting? Are you dropping it off? Are you mailing it? Are you going to vote in person? We're not calling Trumpers. It's not a difficult phone call.
Right.
And it's actually very rewarding, and it gives you such a great feel for what is going on outside of our California bubble. I love to phone bank to the Midwest. First of all, they're nice.
Yeah.
They don't hang up on you. They don't use expletives, and so forth. They're really nice people. Some of them even love to chat. But the point is, I get to hear different mentalities, and I think it's valuable to all of us to know how other people in other parts of the country are seeing it, what news they've heard or not heard. I mean, we get a lot more access to news than some of the people in the Midwest. I'm appalled by the lack of information that some of these people have. So I just think it's so valuable. And I don't, if you talk to 1 in 10 and you make 50 dials in an hour, you talk to 5 people at most, friendly, 2 minutes, you're off for good. How can that be bad?
Are you leaving voice messages?
No, the campaign, we're calling right now for Progressives for Biden, which is part of the Biden campaign. And they don't want us leaving messages at this point.
Yeah.
Let me add,
Because I get so many message machines, but they
I
don't
know.
want us to do it yet.
let me add something here. I got confused, Linda. Tomorrow, what the training is for Reclaim Our Vote is actually for phone banking. I was confused.
Okay.
I was confused. And
Okay.
what the phone banking is actually called something like training for introverts or something like that.
For introverts,
Phone training for introverts. So let me read you what somebody wrote to me today about the phone banks for Reclaim Our Vote. I've done a little of that myself, and I found I've done not that much phone banking. You know, I did it for Clinton, some for Obama, but not very much. But when I did it for Reclaim Our Vote, I found it to be a qualitatively different experience in that the people were not, they were quite friendly, and they're not, you're calling a population that does not get very many political phone calls. Reclaim Our Vote, what they aim is for very low propensity voters. And so the campaigns typically don't contact these people because it's not worth the investment for a lot of campaigns. So they don't, anyway, so today somebody wrote to me about it. I asked them what they were doing, and she said, my very best experience, this is with ROV, was with Georgia. They have such genteel manners and they're so polite. They thank you for calling and answer yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am.
Yes.
And this group, you know, we're calling folks who are unaccustomed to being called because no one has given a damn about their vote for decades. So the voter is grateful to hear from us. And this is actually, so that's a nonpartisan, they do nonpartisan work. They're just calling voters of color and giving them information about how to vote, trying to answer questions if they have it about, how to get an absentee ballot, that sort of thing. And in this case, they do want you to leave a message in those for ROV. That their phone banking, they ask you to leave a message if you don't get, and you typically get a higher percentage of people actually answering the phone because they don't get a lot of calls from people. So anyway.
So Jack, do you have contact information on that you could send me?
Yeah, I'll send, that was what I was thinking of. I'll send you the link.
That's great.
After the meeting here.
Okay, question for Jack and Lisa. Do you know of any phone banks that are done entirely through the computer that you can use the computer microphone?
There are some. And I think Through Talk, I don't use it. We use the band or VPB. I prefer those. And so do my phone bankers. I think it's a faster tutorial for inexperienced phone bankers to use their phone and their laptop. But Through Talk, I think, lets you do it completely through the computer.
Okay, great. I don't think, can you speak to Flip the West, Jack, since,
Yeah, I can add that they actually, I just put in my boilerplate for all their, they're looking for phone bankers too. So I'll forward that on to Linda too, if she's interested. I don't have any experience with their phone banks, but I know they're a very professional organization. So I would recommend them, but so I'll pass that information on. They're certainly looking for phone bankers too, as we transition out of postcards.
Thanks.
They're
Great.
also doing, Flip the West is also doing texting.
Uh-huh.
They're
Yeah.
doing everything. Aren't they doing postcards still too?
Yes,
That I don't know.
still until, I mean, the latest mail date I have for them is October
October.
7th, I think. I think it's October 7th. But there's, things change from day to day. So, I mean, they're looking at conceivably a late get out the vote campaign to one place or another. But I don't have any details. I mean, something could show up or not, basically. Yeah.
Great. Tom, do you know about Oakmont Democratic Club?
Yeah, it's just a little bit harder. There's not a lot to say there. Like the various people who are tracking it think he's in pretty good shape. I also noticed today we got an email from him where he's actually raising money for some of the other congressional candidates in the Valley, which I assume is a good sign when you raise money for the other folks. So I think we're not really worried about that. We do have a group here that about a half dozen of us are doing texting. We're doing it with the Biden effort, which actually some of it is pretty inspiring. I know last couple of days we were doing texting around people where they were willing to phone bank. And I've been very surprised the number of people saying yes, because that is one of the harder things to do for some folks. We also are doing a walkathon this weekend with some of the money going to when we all vote. I guess it is, yeah. And so so we're keeping pretty busy. And I know
we're still postcarding for Alaska, and yeah.
Great.
got it.
Jim sent me an update about the presidential election, and I'll include it in the notes. I didn't have time to make a slide for the thing tonight. But according to the Economist study, the 4 states that are the closest are Arizona, Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. And those 4 states have more than enough electoral votes for us to win the Electoral College. And 538 has 3 of the same states, but they put in Ohio instead of Arizona, which has total 78 electoral votes versus 71. So I'll include that in the meeting notes. And then Jack just sent me in the list of the Senates. So do you want to talk about those, Jack?
Yeah. Let's see. Can you?
And I'll include those in the notes too.
Well, when you see it, basically, can I share my screen? I can put it up, probably.
Sure, go ahead.
Let me see if I can find it real fast. Hold on. Okay. Now, how do I have it up?
Okay, you hit share screen and then you see a whole bunch of folders and images and stuff, and then you click on one of those, I think, and then share, possibly at the
There we
top.
go. There we go. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so, basically I just added a couple of moved some things around and added a column. What Larry says about the presidential race, I actually put that in here, 538's rating as of today on these various states where the Senate is, the Senate seat is up. And as you can see, Arizona, Colorado, Maine, Biden is up, probably outside the margin of error in those 3 states. And here's what they recently put up their Senate forecast, and they did it by, what the percent chance of the Democrat winning the race is as of, last evening. And it pretty much matches with what Cook says. I didn't make any changes to what my take was. I mean, I'm kind of with the, to tell you the truth, I'm sort of like totally baffled as to what the effect of the Supreme Court battle will be on the various Senate races. My take would be, I don't think it'll have a big effect on the presidential race, but in certain states, it could have an effect that I don't know what it is. I don't know that anybody does. So, this is 538's take as of last night. I would say one of the things that I've been doing lately is to really try to save Doug Jones's seat, because I think if you look at 538's, with my ROV work, I've been trying to get people to take Alabama, because I think, they were critical in him winning the seat in the first place. Well, not just ROV, but other African-American organizations that brought out, turnout was up dramatically in the belt for that race in 2017. And there are enough African-American voters who don't vote very often in that, to actually make that race really close. And I don't know how much 538 takes that into account, but, that race is basically, the same as Georgia. People are excited about Georgia, but, according to 538, the odds are just as good to just keep the Alabama seat. And certainly compared to like Texas or Kentucky or any of the other ones, some of the other ones, Alabama is worth working on.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have to say. Nothing, I just added that in to kind of compare it to what Cook says. He hasn't really made any major changes in this month. So.
Yeah, and I see you moved Kansas up a notch from third tier to second. And
I did that last time because I think it is kind of, and again, that's one of the races where I really, I'm wondering if the Supreme Court deal will dim Bollier's chances there because of, she's got a lot of crossover appeal, but I think you're going to maybe see less ticket splitting because of that thing. It's hard to say. I mean, and again, it depends how the Republicans play it. Myself, I think they won't hold a vote before the election. I don't think they will do that. I think they'll move the process along, and then regardless of what happens in the election, put somebody in afterwards. That would be my guess. That's what they'll try.
And I see you moved South Carolina up a notch.
Yeah, because basically the polls say it's a pretty close race. And Jamie Harrison has raised incredible amount of money and has great advertisements, and I think a pretty good ground game going. And again, that's another place where the African American vote is critical. They have, it's over a quarter African American, and so if you can really turn out those people, and there are organizations working on that, including Reclaim Our Vote, you can make that race close with the African American vote. So, yes. That's all I have to say about that.
Great. So where are we at now? Do you want to say anything about Kentucky?
Who, me?
Yes.
Well, to me, it's obscene, that race, how much, it's getting close to $100 million if you count the primary money. Mitch McConnell's ahead by double digits. When you talk to the people in Kentucky, which I still do, they hate him. And this Supreme Court battle is not going to endear him to anybody in Kentucky. What I don't understand is all the national news, is all about, Mitch, he's ahead, he can't be beat, blah, blah, blah. But you talk to the people of Kentucky and they're the ones voting. It's only those people voting. And he is really despised right now, especially because of COVID. They have a terrible COVID outbreak. Saturday and Sunday, they each day had over 1,000 new cases and double-digit deaths, and they're just in a very embattled, very ill, ill from COVID, and they can't get any unemployment help, and they're just in terrible, terrible shape. So I can't see that he's doing himself any favors, and since it's only the people of Kentucky that are going to elect him, if it's a legitimate election, it just has to be closer than these double-digit differences. But what Amy still is not a popular candidate, I think, which was the big mistake, is not putting in a more popular candidate. And the obscene amount of money. I had to talk people back this weekend. They were all like, oh, we got to beat Mitch. We got to beat Mitch. And I was like, if you just take the Senate, he's not in charge anymore.
Right.
And why do you want to give your $50 to a race that's approaching 100 million in money spent in a state that I just can't understand spending all that money in that state where they're so poor right now. So I've had to talk people back from making those donations. I've also had to talk them back from making donations to the DNC. I'm just opposed to those kinds of donations. I think there are specific races, smaller ones that are affordable. Jack is the one who taught me all this. And Jack, I just want you to know I'm an apt pupil of yours. I've really come to see the light on that, where working on affordable races is a much more effective tool of your time, your energy, and your dollars. And so I just don't understand Kentucky suddenly, because he's so despised, but nobody thinks he can be beat. And if you listen to the people in Kentucky, they don't want to vote for him. But so how's he going to win? I don't get it. But, that's my story.
Lisa, do you think that the Kentucky people are just so whipped that they just won't show up at the polls?
Well, first of all, Kentucky has rampant voter suppression. Bashir has done his best to make voting accessible, vote by mail, request your absentee ballot, all of that. He also last week endorsed, finally, Amy. So now she's been endorsed by her two opponents in the Senate race, Mike Breuer and Charles Booker, and the governor. I wish that would make a difference. I don't know. I think Amy's unpopularity is a major drawback. And as far as the people in Kentucky, they're worried about being sick. They're broke. The polling places have been reduced. We've been educating them. Do you know how to did you get your ballot? Do you know how to return it? Do you know where you can go? There is just so much misinformation on purpose, I believe, because it aids voter suppression.
Great. Karen, I forgot, you're with Sister District, right? Do you want to?
Yeah, Sister District West.
Yeah, you want to speak about what you guys have been up to?
Yeah, we have one candidate in Georgia, and we're trying to make inroads there. And we have two in Minnesota. We're trying to take the Minnesota Senate. And if we do, it'll be a trifecta for the Democrats, finally. So that'll be great. But I totally agree, Lisa, about the money that people are throwing away on these multi-million-dollar races. Whereas in a state, if we can start taking our states back, they affect us as much as the federal government does. The women's right to choose, the environment. It goes on and on that our states control. So I feel much better about spending a lot of time on phone banking with the states. I agree with you on the Georgia people are incredible. The Republicans won't listen, and then they'll say, well, I'm really sorry, I'm not interested. But Minnesota, the Minnesota people are not that nice. And for some reason, and each campaign is different in terms of the voter rolls they get. For some reason, the Minnesota, we have a lot of Republicans we get that are really nasty and it's just a big clique.
See.
But it's really important. I think phone banking, hasn't it been found in studies to be the most effective? Other than
Postcarding.
canvassing? Anyway,
Yes, because it's more personalized.
yeah.
Although Reclaim Our Vote says postcarding is the most effective. So
They do.
they do. They say they have a 25% response rate, which is just unheard of. But
I've heard that one of the factors is actually what the population target is. Very different for different populations, rural versus cities,
Oh.
etc.
that's,
Postcarding is great in the rural areas.
Okay,
That's from Gloria's point of view anyway. I don't.
okay.
Yeah, canvassing by mail. But Lisa, I think that Andrea said that when you're phone banking the same target audience as postcarding, if you get through, you get a 90% response rate to phone calls.
Jeez.
It was an extraordinary number.
yeah, that's a big deal. And it's true. If you have, I had a phone banker this weekend who just doesn't let people hang up on her. And it's really amazing because she, they say, well, I'm not voting for, and she goes, oh, you're not voting? And she doesn't let them dismiss her. And she actually has some really good persuasive calls. And I think if you can get people on the phone, especially since COVID, not enough people have social interaction. They're more willing to talk than I remember it was 2 years ago. I talk to more people now than I did 2 years ago.
Yeah, good point.
Larry, we went to the Sister District East meeting last week. They did update on Vining and Rodas, and I don't have notes in front of me, but roughly recall that Vining had raised a couple $100,000. She felt pretty good about where her campaign was. She basically is in a district, I believe is a little bit west of Milwaukee, kind of a suburban rural district. And there's a lot of money being spent, obviously, in Wisconsin, but they were feeling pretty good about their situation. Rodas had raised, I think it was 300,000, which is very good. But I think her district tilts a little bit more Republican. So I think they were aware of how high the hill was to get over there. And but they seemed to be confident they were running a very good campaign. It was being well executed. And they've done well on fundraising. Of course, they could use more. So I know Sister District is going to be also doing some phone banking there, which we volunteered to do starting next month. Yeah, they're doing some great work, the Sister District East.
Great, thank you. Sam couldn't be here tonight, but he said in North Carolina, 10% of all registered voters have requested absentee ballots. It's 1,400% increase compared to 2016. So everyone there knows absentee ballots are the way to go, it looks like. And it's still going up. About 3% of the ballots have already been returned, but black voter ballots are rejected about 4 times the rate as white voter ballots, although total numbers are actually fairly small. And that's all I got on that. I spoke with someone up in Indivisible Auburn, and they have a Facebook page with a lot of events on it, both for Audrey Denny and a few for Kennedy and District 4. It's mostly phone banking, I think, right now, and maybe some texting. I've forgotten. I just can't set it today in case you're interested in working in those districts. I don't have anything on 8 or 21. Does anyone else? Okay, in 22,
Larry?
yeah,
On 21, I just got a little piece of news anyway. It's, we wrote some postcards for TJ Cox that I got from East Bay for TJ down there. And I asked Mary Burgers today if she had any more, and she doesn't. And she was just in the process of delivering them to somebody in the district for mailing next week. And she said they did. She had somewhere between, I think it was 77,700 or something that they were going to mail next week to voters in that district. So and there's a whole bunch of we did some earlier for Flip to West, had the same thing that'll be mailed next week or in the first week of October. So there's going to be a whole wave of these things hitting voters pretty soon.
great. In 22, they're still doing postcards and stuff on Friday mornings. They have a Zoom site that I'll include in the meeting notes that you can register and postcard with folks that are postcarding in 22. And that's all I know about that. I don't really have anything on 23. There's Lady Vern Kim Majoni that is running, and she thinks that she has an outside chance against McCarthy, which would like be the upset of the year.
Oh.
In 25, they think that Christy Smith has a good chance of winning this election. For some reason, the people on the ground there thought that she was going to lose the special election for whatever, but that she has an advantage in the general. Her Garcia now has a record that doesn't fit the district, they think. And she has still a lot of hard work to do, and she needs all the help she can get. And I know that we've been sending postcards and whatnot into 25, and I think there's also phone banking and texting opportunities. And that's all I have for any of the other districts. Does anyone have anything else like 39, 45, 48, 49, 50?
48, there's a pretty well thought out postcard campaign. I got a bunch of, they send you postcards. They have a custom postcard with all the voting, the voting information on the front of the card, and endorsements for Biden and Harley Ruda, and then so it's by swing precincts. So they're, you know, if the precinct is in Fountain Valley, they have the person running for supervisor or mayor there, or whatever one. And if it's in Huntington Beach, they'll have the person running for mayor of Huntington Beach or whatever. So they have several different, I forget, I think there's 45,000 they're trying to get done. Yeah, so it seems like a pretty good, well thought out program for specific swing districts that Rudy either won or lost narrowly last time. So we're doing, I have some of those.
Great. And it's my understanding that both Katie Porter and Mike Levin are raising funds for other people now. Yep. So they regard those races as safe. And in 50, ICE is 1 point ahead or tied with Campanahar, at least one of the polls. So he may be able to pull off an upset in 50 of all places. And then finally, I forgot to mention earlier, last night there was a fundraiser that we were co-hosting with Indivisible Los Gatos to raise funds for a group called Walk the Walk, which raises funds that goes directly to small organizations on the ground in critical states that have state level House races, Senate races, and presidential races kind of all in play to raise funds for those people directly through Act Blue. And we raised like $90,000 last night for them. It was pretty nice. And so that's all I have. 43 days until the election, 121 days till Biden's sworn in.
Yes.
So stay safe, folks. Asher, did you want to say anything actually? And Kate, you've been quiet.
I just wanted to say I saw a good, I can't help on getting Biden elected, but I want to put some more wind in everyone's sails, which is if you haven't read Sasha Abramsky's piece in The Nation, just Google Nation coup September 21, you should get it. If not, get in touch with me, I'll give you the exact link. But he wrote an article that makes 2 or 3 points. One, of course, is that the GOP is up to no good and will do all sorts of things that could undermine the election. But there are 2 bulwarks. One is the work of Indivisible and Move On to set up a protest movement that would be out of sight beyond everything that we've seen so far, including the Women's March and all that's gone on with George Floyd protests. And that's going to be an important bulwark. But the biggest bulwark, the wind in the sails that we need, is to have a mandate for Biden and Harris that is unmistakable and unassailable. So we got to do it.
Asher, can you put the link to that article in the chat for us?
Yeah, if you'll stick for a moment, yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you.
And Kate, you've been quiet this evening.
Oh, that's just who I am. I'm quiet and taking notes and hoping for the best.
Jack, Larry, I just wanted to say one thing to Stephanie. I feel your pain in that I have, for the last 6 months, I've been telling all my postcarders and letter writers, let's get you trained in phone banking and text banking now so that you're ready to go. Yeah. And now they're coming to the realization that they're not going to have anything to do the last 3 weeks. And they're like, oh, I guess I need to start text banking. And I'm like, really? Really? Now you decide, when I've been begging you for months? So I feel your pain on all this. And it's so frustrating to try and bring them up to speed quickly when everything else is coming at us like a fire hose already.
Well, and so many people don't realize the complexity to political texting.
Yeah.
Which is why our team developed these bullet points for people, saying, have you ever done political texting? Please look at these bullet points. And you'd be surprised how many people say this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So, and at that point, I would say, there's phone banking and there's postcarding, but they can still come to me and I could still send them the links, like I said, to Resistance Labs, and they can decide to do that, or still go to Linda Hemingway.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that.
Thank you for this.
Asher, that's the article I thought it was. We posted that as we do a weekly What We're Reading Now column for our newsletter, and that we put that out about a week, maybe last week. Very well received.
Great.
So that's what I thought you were talking about. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I didn't know. I don't read your newsletter, I'm sorry to say.
Well, it's mostly to Napa Indivisible.
Yeah.
So that's why you didn't know.
So I'm putting in, somebody wants the PDF, I'll be glad to share it. Assuming the nation doesn't mind too much.
Yeah. Great. Anything else, anyone?
Just keep working.
Keep working.
Yes. And thanks for the reading tips. I think they're really neat, although I don't have time to read right now.
Larry, take time. You got to take time for yourself. We all have to do that. We all have to take time for ourselves.
Yes.
Otherwise, we
yeah.
really are going to be a wreck. I mean, yeah, we are, but we have to really take care of ourselves.
So Larry, you said that there'll be the Indivisible General Meeting next month. What about the out-of-district meeting? Are you planning one next month?
Yes, it'll be before the election. I think it'll be important to update everyone on what's going on as we at that time. Because that'll probably be 3 weeks or so before the general election.
Be after our ballots have come out too.
Yeah.
Could I say something about messaging that I think is absolutely critical and that we're insisting on here in Napa? We can't keep saying election day, November 3rd. We have to say the last day to vote is November 3rd because it's going to be critical for people to get their ballots turned in early so that they can be counted early. In Napa, we start counting on Halloween. And I think if we keep saying election day, November 3rd, we are leading people astray of what we really need them to be doing, which is to be turning in their ballots early so they can be counted early, so we can have better results sooner. And Trump doesn't get to pull, well, it's the last day to certify the election type stuff. So I'm already telling people it's election season. The last day to vote is November 3rd, and please don't wait for the last day because it's likely to be very chaotic. And I think that messaging is crucial, and I highly suggest you spread the word that way.
Thank you, I will.
Good point. And if people can track their ballots, tell them to track them.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, early voting's already going on in places like Florida, North Carolina, and some of the
Well,
other.
did you see what happened
Alabama.
in Virginia on Friday? And that was just phenomenal, the response.
Yeah.
We were standing in line 4 and 5 hours to vote because they didn't trust the post office. And then the next day they got harassed, but
Yeah,
they still stood in line and voted.
That was up in Virginia of all places.
And there isn't early voting in Florida yet, Larry.
They've been mailing out ballots and some of them have been returned. They've mailed out.
I was just texting for Florida today, and I had a few people that said they'd already voted, and then the moderator said no. They're probably talking about the primaries, that their ballots haven't come out yet in Florida.
They've had around 4.6 million requests for absentee ballots that have been mailed out, is my understanding.
Right. But people haven't voted yet.
They've had some returns. It's in the hundreds, but not a lot. Because I go to the Florida Voting Statistics website.
Yeah, I think I will, because I did have people say that they had already voted, and the moderator said, no, they haven't yet. Okay.
Lisa, what was the harassment in Virginia? I didn't see that story.
Oh, Trumpers were blocking entrances into the building with the voting booths. And if you saw any of the film, it was pretty ugly. And they were literally blocking it and harassing and everything. And then in some places, not all, in some places they called the police and the police made them move 100 feet away. But because the story got such news of how many people turned out the very first day to vote, the Trumpers decided, well, we can't have that. We can't have Dems. And you could tell it was Dems. I'll tell you how I knew. Because looking at all the pictures, the people in line were all wearing masks.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine. So, yeah, it's, I think it was CNN that reported it, Jack, so you can pull it up that way. Anyway,
Right.
I just put in the chat something that I've been using in phone banks and so forth. It's a list of when states start counting their absentee ballots.
Great.
It's very valuable if you're phone banking or text banking, because you say you should have your ballot turned in by now so it can be part of the early counting. they won't release any results, but like here in Napa, we start counting on Halloween. I don't know if it's the same over in Sonoma. But so we're making sure everybody turns in their ballot before Halloween so that we have actual results on election day.
And so, and also I would add that the meeting, last week's meeting, I think I tried to get this in for people that are concerned particularly about the potential for a coup or whatever, which I think is far-fetched myself, but if you're particularly concerned about that, the thing to do is to work in Florida and in North Carolina and in Arizona, because in Florida they count the result, the absentee ballots, and will be releasing most of the results on election night.
Right.
North Carolina, they start, I don't remember the exact details, but they start well in advance of election day counting those. And Arizona also counts them in advance, most of them. And the two largest counties in Arizona where like 75% of the voters reside are controlled by, the whatever the recorder, I think it's called, is a Democrat. There will be very little, there's not going to be shenanigans there. I mean, there will, as in 2018 for that Senate race, there could be some late ballots that come in Arizona. But if Biden clearly is ahead in Florida and North Carolina on election night, that's going to go a long way towards keeping any narrative that Trump tries to propound, about a coup, about stealing the election or stopping voting or whatever. So I urge anybody who has those particular fears to just figure out some way to work in Florida and North Carolina.
I just looked it up on this link that I gave everybody. North Carolina starts counting 2 weeks before election. Won't release the results before 7:30 on election day. But that's when we phone bank or even postcarding, we're putting when they start counting. So please drop off your ballot by such and such a date so it can be counted on election day. I think it's critical that we get that message out so that so the likelihood of a challenge being credible is minimal.
Yes.
Yeah.
What happens if they question the ballot coming in? Do they contact the actual individual?
It
and
depends on
say-
the registrar, Stephanie. In Napa, we have a great registrar, and they give you 3 chances to correct your signature or to sign your ballot if you didn't, whatever. So I think, like Jack said, if you have a Democratic registrar, they tend to work with the voters. And if you have a Republican registrar, you can have boxes of ballots sitting in the back.
Oh, God. I'm so, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
I just added the voters. Yeah, I just added the voter stats from Florida into the chat in
I
case.
saw that too. I pulled that up. I've got a bunch of things to bookmark tonight now.
Yeah.
I just started
Okay.
texting today for Florida, so I'm kind of new to that one.
Cool. Anything else, anyone?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank you
for being
all.
here, and
Thank you
thanks
very
for all the
much.
work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Please take care, everyone. We need
Yeah,
we need
exactly.
that to survive.
Take care.
Bye.